The Aqabah Pledge, First and Second. Learning Objectives. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. May the peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah be upon you. Today's lesson is about the first and second Aqabah Pledges. So let's begin. We know, my friends, that the da'wah of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to the whole world to embrace Islam began in the holy city of Mecca. When the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was in Mecca, he was keen on meeting the Arab tribes during the Hajj season in order to invite them to Islam. This was in the 11th year of the prophethood, that is, in the 11th year after the revelation descended upon the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in Ghar Hira. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, met with 6 men from a tribe in Medina called Al-Khazraj. In Medina, my dears, used to be called Yathrib at the beginning. He presented Islam to them. Then they discussed among themselves and decided to embrace Islam. After the end of the Hajj season, they returned to Yathrib, carrying the message of Islam. During the Hajj season of the following year, that is, in the 12th year of the prophethood, 12 men from the Aws and the Khazraj tribes came to Medina, which, as we know, are 2 tribes from Yathrib or Medina. They requested to see the Prophet in a place called Aqabah, and they converted to Islam, and they pledged allegiance to him in a pledge called the First Aqabah Pledge. They agreed on many things, such as to worship Allah alone and no one else, to not steal, to not lie, to obey the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. When the men wanted to return to Yathrib, they asked the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to send someone with them who would teach them about their religion. The Prophet chose a companion, Mus'ab bin Umayr, who therefore became the first ambassador in Islam. Then after that, the call to Islam spread in Medina at the hands of the companion Mus'ab, may Allah be pleased with him. Because of his wisdom, good manner, gentleness, and ability to persuade, there was not a house left in Yathrib that Islam did not enter. Now who can tell me, what does the request of those who converted to Islam from the Aws and Khazraj to send someone to teach them about their religion signify? Well done, my friends. The request is evidence of their devotion to Islam and to learning its principles accurately. 1 year after the first Aqabah Pledge, 72 men and 2 women from Yathrib came to Mecca during the Hajj season. So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, met them in Aqabah. His uncle Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib was with him. They pledged allegiance to the Prophet in a pledge called the Second Aqabah Pledge. They agreed on the same as what the people of the First Aqabah Pledge pledged to do, in addition to other terms such as to support Islam and protect the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to spend money for the sake of Allah the Almighty. The participation of women in the second pledge indicates that women had an active role in Islam since the beginning of the Islamic da'wah. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was graced with Jawami al-Kalam, which means that his speech is concise and eloquent. He was the most eloquent person to speak out of all people. Despite the lack of words that came in both pledges, They contained a complete constitution, enough for the establishment of a good nation, the nation that was established in Yathrib, or Medina. Now, my friends, who can tell me why the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was determined to have the pledge of the allegiance from the people of Yathrib twice? Well done. This is because he wanted Islam, Muslims, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to have supporters outside of Mecca. This was necessary so that the immigration could be completed, because the harm against the Muslims in Mecca had increased. In conclusion, my friends, we have learned the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, used to introduce Islam to the tribes during the Hajj seasons, so that the Islamic da'wah could spread beyond the holy city of Mecca and to the whole world. We also learned that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, asked the people of the first Aqabah pledge to take a pledge over several things, such as to worship Allah alone and no one else, to not steal, to not lie, and to obey the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, asked the people of the second Aqabah pledge to take a pledge over the same things as the first pledge, in addition to other terms, such as to support Islam and protect the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and to spend money for the sake of Allah the Almighty. Today we also learned that if we wanted to compare between the participants in the first Aqabah pledge and those in the second Aqabah pledge, we would find that there were 12 men from the Aws and Khazraj tribes from Yathrib in the first pledge, while 72 men and 2 women from Yathrib participated in the second pledge. Finally, we learned that the first and second Aqabah pledges were the reason that there were supporters of Islam and Muslims outside of Mecca. The goal was to make it easier for Muslims to immigrate and leave Mecca later on due to the increasing harm against them within the city.